The rain fell like cold metal on the rusted rooftops of the mining colony. The ground was soaked with oil, dust, and the smell of smoke. No one looked at her, not really. She was just another alien, another outsider, standing in the shadows. But Vela didn't care. She clutched her child close, wrapping her thin arms around the little girl's fragile body, trying to keep her warm. The baby was quiet now, too tired to cry. Vela had been walking for hours, begging anyone who passed. For a job, any job. Cleaning floors, sorting scrap, carrying tools, she would do anything. But the humans didn't even stop to answer. Some looked at her with disgust. Others acted like she wasn't even there. "Go back to your planet," one man had spat earlier. But Vela had no planet to go back to. Her home was gone, burned during the war. A war started by humans. Her husband had died trying to protect their colony. And now, she was alone. Just her and her child, and an empty stomach that had learned. To stop expecting food, the trade hall doors opened with a creak. Humans in work clothes came out, laughing and talking, some carrying new tools, some smoking. Vela stepped forward, gathering her courage. "Please," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm looking for work. I have a child. I will work for food." "Number?" One answered, until one man stopped. He was tall, with dark hair and tired eyes. His jacket was worn, his hands covered in machine grease. He didn't smile, but he didn't walk away either. He just looked at her. Vela lowered her eyes. "I can clean or fix things. I used to help my mate with machines before she couldn't finish." The man looked at the child, small and thin, with large black eyes like her mother's. She clung to Vela's side, shivering. "What's your name?" the man asked. "Vela," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "I'm Ethan." He turned and walked away. Her heart sank. Another one walking away. Another maybe that turned into nothing. But then he stopped again and looked over his shoulder. "You said you can fix things?" he asked. Vela blinked. "Yes, I'm good with machines. Come to Bay 3 tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock. Don't be late." And with that, he disappeared into the alley of broken lights and humming pipes. She stood there in silence, holding her child. Was it real? A job? Or a trap? Could she trust him? Could she afford not to? The next morning, before the sun rose behind the thick clouds, Vela stood outside Bay 3. Her child still slept in a wrap across her chest. Her hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from fear. She had been lied to before. She had been tricked before. The large door slid open. Ethan was inside, already working. Sparks flew from a broken engine core. "You're early," he said. Without looking, "You said 6, she replied. He nodded. "Let's see what you can do." He handed her a damaged circuit board and pointed to the workbench. Vela looked at it. Burned wires, cracked shells, melted edges. She took a breath and she fixed it. Ethan didn't say much. He watched her hands move fast, careful. Her fingers were thinner than a human's, but precise. When she was done, the machine blinked to life. "Not bad," he said. She said nothing. She waited. He gave her another task, then another. All day she worked, cleaning tools, repairing circuits, helping him lift parts. All while her daughter sat in a corner, watching. At the end of the day, Ethan walked to the shelf, took out a small food pack, and handed it to her. "Not much," he said, "but enough for 2. Vela took it with both hands, her eyes wide. "Thank you," she whispered. "Come back tomorrow," he said, "if you want." But not everyone was happy. From the shadows, someone watched. A man with a scar down his neck. He saw Vela working in the human's bay. He saw the child, and he didn't like it. "These things don't belong here," he muttered. He lit a cigarette and walked into the night. The sun didn't shine on the mining colony. It was always gray. Cold wind carried the smell of metal, oil, and old smoke. But inside Bay 3, things felt different. Vela came back the next day, just like Ethan told her. Her little daughter Leary was wrapped close to her chest, sleepy but calm. Vela's hands were sore from working the day before, but she didn't complain. Ethan barely looked up when she arrived. "You're on time," he said. She nodded. "I'm ready." The workshop was a mess, half-broken engines, wires everywhere, crates full of spare parts. Most people wouldn't even step inside. But Vela didn't seem afraid of the mess. She rolled up her sleeves and got to work. Ethan gave her a job no one wanted, cleaning the old rusted fuel lines. Toxic dust stuck to everything. It burned her fingers a little, but she said nothing. She worked with focus, her eyes sharp. And while she worked, she spoke to Leary softly in her native tongue. A gentle hum of strange but beautiful words. By noon, Ethan noticed something. Vela wasn't just fast. She was smart. She organized the tools without being told. She found a cracked valve in one of the cooling systems, something Ethan had missed. He watched her closely now, more curious than before. "You said you helped your mate fix machines?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Before the humans came to our planet." She didn't say it with anger. Just truth. Ethan hesitated. "I was there. Once. A long time ago." Vela's hand stopped. She looked at him for a second, then nodded. "I know," she said quietly. "You move like a soldier." They didn't speak about it again. But outside, whispers were spreading. "Did you see Ethan working with one of them? She's from the old war. Her kind burned our supply lines. They're dangerous. All of them." People didn't say it to Ethan's face, but they talked. And someone was listening. His name was Garrick, scarred, tall, and angry. He had worked with Ethan years ago, back in the war. Now, he worked security at the docks. He didn't trust aliens, especially ones that smiled and acted like they belonged. That night, while Ethan locked up the shop, Vela waited quietly. Daughter had fallen asleep in her arms. She looked tired, but peaceful. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Ethan shrugged. "Because no one else did." "That's not a reason." He looked at her, his eyes darker now. "I've seen what people become in war. I don't want to be that anymore." Vela didn't smile, but her voice was soft. "Then you're already better than most." As they left for the night, neither of them saw the small device hidden under one of the workbenches. A blinking red light. Quiet, waiting the next morning. Vela returned again, but something was wrong. The lights inside the workshop were off. The door was unlocked. And the smell of smoke was in the air. Ethan was already there, standing in the middle of the shop, staring at a pile of burned wires and shattered tools. "Someone broke in," he said. Vela stepped carefully over the mess. Why? He didn't answer. But both of them knew. Later that day, while fixing a broken engine together, Vela found something under the workbench. A melted piece of metal with strange markings. "Ethan, this wasn't just a break-in," she said. "This was a trap." He took the metal, examined it. His jaw tightened. "Someone tried to sabotage the shop." She nodded. "Because of me," she whispered. Ethan didn't deny it. Instead, he handed her another tool and said, "Then we'd better fix everything before they come back." From a distance, Garrick watched them. He didn't like what he saw. "She's still there," he said to a man beside him. "For now," the man replied. "But we'll deal with her soon." The broken wires were fixed. The fuel lines were sealed. The shop looked almost normal again. But it didn't feel normal. Ethan worked in silence, his movements sharp. Vela stayed quiet too, careful not to disturb him. She felt it in the air, the tension, the coldness that hadn't been there before. He hadn't smiled once that morning, not even at Liri. Vila didn't blame him. Someone had tried to destroy his shop, his life. And it was because of her. She wiped grease from her fingers and stepped closer. "I can leave," she said quietly. "If I'm a danger to your shop, to your life, I will go." Ethan stopped what he was doing. Slowly, he turned toward her. "You think I'm scared of them?" he asked. She didn't answer. "I'm not," he said, "but I'm starting to wonder if I can trust you." The words cut deeper than she expected. Vela looked at the ground. "I didn't bring the danger. It followed me." Ethan stared at her. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" She met his eyes. "No, it's just the truth." For a long moment, nothing moved. Even Liri, sitting quietly in a corner with a broken toy, stopped fidgeting. Then Ethan sighed. "I checked the door logs. No forced entry. Someone had the code." Vila's eyes widened. "You think? I did it." "I don't know what to think." She clenched her fists. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. I never asked for more. I only wanted to feed my child. I would never harm this place." Ethan looked at her closely. There was no fear in her voice, just pain, just honesty. "I believe you," he finally said. Vila let out a slow breath. "But others don't," he added. "They want me to fire you." Later that evening, Ethan sat alone in his small office, looking at an old photo, his old war squad. 10 humans, 1 mission, a battle that changed everything. One of the faces was Garrick. They had fought side by side once, but now Garrick was part of the colony's security. And Ethan knew that look in his eye, the one that didn't forget, didn't forgive. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The next day, the door to Bay 3 was locked shut when Vela arrived. For a moment, fear hit her. Was it over? But then the door slid open. Ethan stood there, looking tired, holding a bag of tools. "Come with me," he said. They walked to a ship, docked on the far side of the Colonia rusted cargo hauler. Ethan had been trying to repair for months. "It needs a full systems check." "You said you worked on star drives before." Vila blinked. "Yes, with my mate." "Good. Show me." They worked for hours. The cargo bay was dusty, the engine covered in grime. But Vila moved with quiet skill. Ethan began to speak more small things. How he came to the colony, how the war had changed him, how he stopped believing in sides. Vela listened. Slowly, she began to speak too, about her planet, her mate, her people. About how everything she knew was destroyed by humans. But she never blamed him. That night, when they returned to the workshop, something was different. A strange smell. Ethan froze. "Stay outside," he told her. He stepped in slowly, and there. It was another message. This time, someone had smashed the lights and sprayed red paint on the walls. "Aliens out, traitors burn." Ethan stared at it, jaw tight. Vela came in behind him, saw the words and turned pale. She held her daughter closer. Liri was starting to understand. The little one pointed at the red letters and whispered, "Bad word." Vila knelt beside her. "Yes, love. A bad word from someone who's afraid." Ethan didn't call the guards. He didn't report it. He just cleaned the paint himself. Vela helped. That night, Ethan said something he hadn't said before. "You saved my life yesterday." She looked at him. "How?" "That circuit you fixed. If I'd touched it while it was still live, it would have burned me. Bad." She was quiet, then said, "You saved mine too. When you gave me that food pack." They didn't speak after that, but something had changed. From the shadows near the docks, Garrick watched again. He wasn't angry anymore. He was planning. The shop was quiet. Too quiet. Vila worked silently beside the power core, tightening wires and sealing damaged panels. Leary sat nearby, drawing on scrap paper with a broken stylus. Ethan had barely spoken all morning. Something was different about him, distant, distracted. He was avoiding her eyes. Vela felt it like cold wind across her skin. Something was heavy on his mind, when the power tool in her hand slipped and cut her finger. Ethan didn't even notice. She wrapped it quickly and continued. But the silence grew louder. "Ethan," she finally said, "what are you not telling me?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at the wall for a long time. Then he slowly sat down on an overturned crate. "I wasn't always a mechanic," he said. Vela waited. "I was a soldier." "You probably guessed that already." She nodded. "I fought on your world." Her heart slowed. She knew. But hearing it from him still hurt. "I was part of the advance unit," he continued. "We were told your people were hostile, that we had to secure the planet before the main forces arrived." Vela sat down across from him, holding her hand tightly over her bandage. "We were wrong," Ethan said. "We didn't find soldiers. We found families, towns, farmers. Your people didn't even fight at first. We made them fight." His voice cracked, just slightly. "I saw things I wish I could forget. I did things." The air felt heavy. Leary had fallen asleep again, unaware of the pain hanging between the two adults. Vela finally spoke. "My mate died trying to stop a human ship from bombing our water plant. It was the last thing keeping our people alive." Ethan's shoulders dropped. "I didn't drop bombs. But I gave the green light to clear that zone." Her eyes stung out with tears. "But with the weight of truth, you helped kill him," she said. He nodded slowly. "Yes." Silence again. A long one. Then she stood up. Ethan stayed seated, waiting for the worst. But she didn't leave. Instead, she picked up the tool again and went back to work. He looked up, confused. "I don't forgive you," she said, without turning around. "But you gave me something I thought humans didn't have anymore. What's that?" She looked over her shoulder. Regret. Later that day, Ethan went to the local supply center for new fusion clamps. When he came back, the door to the shop was open, and Vela wasn't there. His heart raced. "Vela?" He called out. Nothing. Leary. Still nothing. Then he saw something on the workbench. A note written in shaky English took Leary to the medic. "She is coughing. Will return soon." Ethan sighed in relief. But just as he sat down, the lights in the shop flickered. Then dashed darkness across the colony. Vela sat beside Leary, who lay on a table at the medic station. Her small chest moved slowly. The doctor said it was dust fever common, but dangerous. If untreated, she'll need proper meds, not just the basic ones, the doctor said. "Do you have colony credits?" Vela shook her head. "No, but I work. I can earn no credits, no medicine." She looked down at Leary's pale skin, her dry lips. "I'll get them," she said. She left in a hurry. Heart pounding back at the shop, the power came back on, and Ethan wasn't alone. Garrick stood. In the doorway. "You knew I'd come," he said. Ethan didn't move. "I was hoping you wouldn't." "She's one of them, Ethan. You think she's different? You think they feel like us?" "She has a child," Ethan said. "She's trying to survive. We all are. But we don't trust the enemy." "You're wrong. No, you're weak. You're just trying to wash your guilt with a pretty alien face." Ethan stood. "Get out." But Garrick didn't move. "This is your last warning. Get rid of her, or the colony will get rid of both of you." Then he left. That night, Vela returned, holding a small packet of basic medicine. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking. "I'll need stronger meds soon," she said. "But this will help for now." Ethan nodded. "We'll get more." She looked at him. How? He didn't answer, but he walked to the back room and opened a locked cabinet. Inside was a small container. T handed it to her. Use this at the supply station. It'll buy what you need. She opened it and gasped. Black market credits. Ethan, this is illegal. I know. Why would you do this for us? He looked down at Leary, now sleeping peacefully on the bench. Because I couldn't save anyone back then, he whispered. But maybe I can save someone now. The colony looked the same on the outside, machines grinding. Ships coming and going. Workers shouting over noise, but inside the shadows. Something was changing. People were watching. Whispers grew louder. Not everyone was angry. Some were just afraid. Others were jealous. A few were cruel. And one was ready to act. Ethan and Vila worked late that night. The shop had been quiet lately, too quiet. Ethan could feel the tension like pressure in the air. Vila didn't speak much either. She kept looking over her shoulder as if someone was following them. Leary had finally started smiling again. The medicine helped. She laughed when Ethan fixed her toy and gave her a shiny button to wear as a badge. But even her laughter couldn't push the darkness away. That evening, as Ethan locked up, Vela stood beside him. Something is wrong, she said softly. I know. Garrick. Maybe. Or someone listening to him. Vila clenched her hands. I want to help, but I'm afraid I'll only bring more danger. Ethan looked at her. You already did help, he said. You saved this place. You saved me. Vela shook her head. Not yet. That night, while the colony slept, a figure slipped through the dark alleys behind the repair bay. The door code had been stolen days ago. Entry was easy. Inside, a small device was placed under Ethan's ship. Just like before. But this one wasn't. Meant to scare, it was meant to destroy. The next morning, Ethan woke early. He planned to run a test flight with Villolette. Her handle the engine live while he ran. Diagnostics.Vila arrived holding Leary's hand. The little girl ran to her usual corner with her toy Dot. Ethan handed Vela the checklist. You ready? She nodded, smiling faintly. Always. They entered the ship. That's when Vila smelled something strange. Burnt metal, but not from normal work. It was different. She followed the scent, crouched near the engine room. Her eyes widened, under the fuel line. Hidden in the shadows was a timed detonation charge. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She pulled out her small toolkit and started working fast, focused. Wires red, green, blue cut. Timer still blinking. She whispered in her own language, a soft rhythm to keep herself steady. Ethan entered the room just as she pulled the main fuse. The blinking stopped. He froze. What is that? Someone tried to kill you, she said quietly. And me. And my child. He stepped forward, saw the broken device in her hands. Where did you learn to defuse bombs? My mate was an engineer. He taught me to build them and stop them. Ethan stared at her. You just saved our lives. She nodded. Again. Later that day, Ethan called in a favor from someone he trusted. A former pilot, now working. Security tech. The logs from the repair bay showed a partial match. Someone used an old override code. Linked to Garrick's team. Ethan had proof now. But he also had a choice. If he reported Garrick, it would start a war inside the colony. And Vela might still be blamed. If he stayed quiet, the attacks would continue. Vela stood with him in the back room as he stared at the report. You have to do what's right, she said. What's right isn't always safe, Ethan replied. You saved my daughter. I saved your shop. We both know safety is never promised. Ethan looked into her eyesharp.com and full of something stronger than fear. You're not just some refugee, he said. No, she replied. I never was. That night, Vela returned to the shop alone. She told Ethan to stay with Leary. Just one night, she said. She needs you. He didn't like it, but he agreed. Vela walked into the shadows, quiet as a whisper, and waited when Garrick returned to the shop. He didn't expect anyone to be there. He stepped inside, ready to plant another message, maybe worse. But she was already behind him. Why? She asked. He spun, shocked. You tried to kill my daughter, he sneered. I tried to clean up this colony. You don't belong here. Vela stepped forward, unafraid. You're afraid? She said. Afraid of a woman with nothing. A mechanic's widow with a child. You don't scare me, she smiled. Cold, you should be scared. Not of me, but of what's coming when Ethan shows the colony what you've done. Garrick grabbed for her. She moved like lightning, twisting his wrist, slamming him into the wall. You don't know us, she whispered, but we know how to survive. Then she vanished into the night. The colony meeting room was full. Miners, traders, engineers, dozens of faces, mostly human, sat in silence as Ethan walked to the center. He carried a data tablet in one hand, and a decision on his shoulders. Beside him stood Vela, calm, steady, her daughter. Leary clung to her leg, watching the crowd with wide eyes. Everyone knew why they were there. Someone had tried to kill Ethan. Twice, someone had tried to kill a child. Ethan cleared his throat. I have proof, he said. Security logs, ship access codes, sabotage reports. The attacker was someone from this colony, someone who served with me in the war. Murmurs spread. Everyone was listening. His name is Garrick Rell. A gasp ran through the room. Some of you still trust him? I used to. But he put a bomb under my ship, where this child plays. He looked at Leary. Her small face peeked up toward him. Why? He asked the room. Because I gave her mother a job. Vela stood straighter. I'm not asking for a war, Ethan continued. I'm asking for a choice. We can keep letting fear decide who belongs here. We can be better than what we were in the war. Later that night, the vote was taken. Garrick was removed from the colony. It wasn't easy. Some still defended him. Some left angry. But Ethan had stood his ground. And Vela had stood beside him. The next morning, Ethan found her packing. What are you doing? He asked. You won, she said. Now people will hate you for it. I can't let Leary grow up in danger. He stepped forward. You don't have to leave. I should, she said. We've taken enough. He shook his head. You've given more than anyone. Vela didn't reply. Then he opened a small box from under his work table. Inside was a slip of Metalan old colony chip, rarely used. What's this? It's a land charter. Half-claimed mining zone on the outer rim. Quiet, safe, needs repairs and builders. Vela looked at him. You want me to take it? He smiled. No, I want us to take it together. Her eyes widened. You don't owe me anything, Ethan. I know, he said. That's why it matters. The following day, the shop was closed. For good, the doors were locked, the tools packed. People watched as Vela, Ethan, and little Leary walked toward the ship bay. Some nodded. Some looked away, but no one stopped them as they boarded. Leary ran to the window and waved at the colony, her old home fading behind her. Vela sat beside Ethan, her hand resting over his. You're choosing a hard life, she said. He smiled. I'm choosing a real one. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Then we choose it together. The ship lifted into the stars. The stars were quiet. After hours in hyperspace, the ship drifted through the edge of a forgotten system. No colonies. No patrols, no noise. Just dark skies and a single small moon, orbiting a dead world rich in minerals and dust. It wasn't paradise, but it was theirs. Ethan stood at the front of the cockpit, staring down at the old mining zone below. Rusted towers, cracked solar panels, a few old structures still standing. "We'll have to rebuild everything," he said. Vila stood beside him, her arms wrapped around Leary. "I know," she said, "but no one will be chasing us here." I smiled. Exactly. 3 weeks passed. The first shelter was built from scrap and old landing crates. Ethan fixed the solar grid while Vila restored the water pumps. They worked side by side every day, building a new life with tools, sweat, and quiet laughter. Leary helped too, drawing strange animals in the dirt, collecting shiny rocks, learning to read from an old datapad Ethan brought. Each night, they ate together under the stars. Each morning, they woke to silence and peace. One evening, as Ethan tightened a bolt on the power relay, Vela sat beside him, watching the moon rise. "This isn't what I expected when I asked for a job," she said. Ethan chuckled. "And I didn't expect to rebuild my life with an alien widow and her stubborn little girl." Vila looked down at the dirt. "Do you ever regret it? Giving everything up?" He shook his head. "No, because I finally feel human again." She reached over, brushing his hand with hers. For a moment, they just sat there, fingers touching, no words needed. Days turned to weeks. Their small camp became a home. They built a greenhouse from scavenged glass and solar film. They planted seeds from 2 world's Earth crops and dried alien grains Vela had hidden in her bag for years. Together, they watched life return to the soil. One afternoon, while Leary played with a solar kite, she ran up to Ethan and hugged his leg tightly. "Daddy," she whispered without thinking. Ethan froze. Vila looked up sharply, unsure, but Leary just smiled. "I like calling you that." Ethan knelt down, smiling softly. "Then you can." Tears filled Vila's eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. That night, Ethan sat by the fire, staring into the quiet sky. "Do you think the war will ever come here, Asuk?" Vila shook her head. "Not soon, and not today." "Good," he said. "Because I'm tired of war." "You're not the only one," she replied. She leaned against him, her head resting on his chest. Leary slept nearby, holding her toy button badge close. "I lost everything once," Vila whispered. "My home, my people, my mate." Ethan put an arm around her. "But you didn't lose hope." She looked up, and you gave it back. The next morning, as the sun rose over their tiny, rebuilt world, Vila stood at the top of the hill, holding Leary's hand. Ethan joined them, handing out warm tea in cracked mugs. "What now?" Vila asked. "Now," Ethan said, "we live. Not as human and alien, not as soldier and refugee, but as a family.